Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most hated yet underrated marketing tactics that a marketer can deploy. Yes, that's right, I'm talking about webinars. That old school tactic that is much maligned and much hated. Whenever you even mention the word webinar, you can hear your clients or your internal teams groan with absolute fear. Now, I feel there are two reasons for this. The first is that we've all attended very boring, very irrelevant webinars, and we never want to run one of those ourselves. The second reason is that you might have tried unsuccessfully to run webinars in the past. In today's video, I'm going to share the proven framework we use at 2112 Marketing to ensure that our clients' webinars are always full up and they always work effectively. They're always engaging, inspiring, insightful, and they always lead to the people who attend taking the desired action. So let's get to it. So who am I to tell you that webinars are worth using or not? Well, for the simple reason that for the past 10 years, I've run an agency, 2112 Marketing. And in that time, we have used webinars as one of the tools to help our clients grow. And we've done this in a variety of different industries. We've helped fill webinars with hundreds of regulatory professionals. We've helped business coaches fill webinars full of SME leaders. We've helped gamified learning solutions providers fill enterprise level webinars. Now, today, I'm going to share with you a few of the case studies from those businesses and how we achieved the results we did for them. Before we dive into those case studies and how you can emulate them, I first want to share with you why I feel most webinars fail. Now, it's for the simple reason that there are different types of webinars. There are the type of top of funnel webinars, which in my opinion, should be for people who have no knowledge of your business. They should be all about providing value. And there are what we'd call middle bottom of funnel webinars, which are more about your product. These are for the warm audiences who are already aware of your brand. They're probably aware of your product and they're ready to be educated further. They've shown interest. They've shown desire to learn more. For cold audiences, they're never going to come to a product webinar. It will just feel like a waste of their time. So today I want to focus on top funnel webinars because this is where most people get it wrong. And I've already mentioned it. The reason most webinars fall flat at attracting new prospects is because it's all about you. You make it all about your product and people simply don't care. It's really easy to ignore. Instead, you need to flip the script. You need to make the webinar about providing value to the prospects you want to reach. So you need to dive deep into those prospects to understand who are they reading, what are they listening to. From there, we can design webinars that are going to attract them. You know, if we're providing solutions to their pain points, they're much, much more likely to attend. They're much, much more likely to stick around for the whole webinar and enjoy it and then engage with us post-webinar. So how do we figure out what's going to be of interest to our prospects? Well, the first thing is you need to understand who your prospects actually are. You'd be amazed the amount of marketers, the amount of businesses I speak to who tell me we have loads and loads of different target audiences. No. You need to focus. You need to make the webinar about one subsection, one specific target audience. From there, we need to build this intense understanding of them. Now, there are a few different ways we can do this. We can speak to our current clients who match them. We can also conduct social listening. So there are plenty of tools out there. So when I talk about social listening, what are they engaging with on social media right now? What are they writing about? What are they commenting on? So we can build an understanding of the key themes that they're currently focused on. Obviously, we can scour the news, the media, to look at what they're reading, what's in the industry publications right now. And we can also use keyword analysis to understand what they're searching Google for or what they're searching the LLMs for. So from there, we can build this really in-depth understanding of who we're trying to reach. And we can understand the key themes and put together a webinar that is really going to entice them and create a really catchy title that's going to draw them in and make them want to sign up to that webinar. The second point I'm going to mention here is something we previously mentioned, in that who are they following? Who do they see as a real source of insight in their industry? It might be a journalist, it might be a really, really well-known individual at a big company in the space. It could be anyone. What you want to then do is look at these individuals and ask yourself, can I invite one of these individuals along to co-host the webinar with me or participate on a panel? That brings us neatly on to point 2 of running great webinars, having a great guest speaker. Now, a great guest speaker can be a way to draw in a crowd. If they have a strong audience, a strong following within the niche you're targeting, people are much, much more likely to attend. Peers attract peers. They don't want to hear from people they feel are going to sell to them. So as soon as they see a SaaS or tech brand launching a webinar, they're instantly turned off. They don't want to know. They're like, we're going to get sold to here. It's not of interest. Whereas when they see it's a peer speaking from a very well-known brand, they're much, much more likely to engage. So when I spoke about the regulatory professionals, that was specifically within the pharmaceutical space. That was for a SaaS service provider within the pharmaceutical space. We had over 250 signups for one of those webinars with over 160 attendees. The way we did that was by partnering them with their current clients. So we had the head of regulatory affairs from Pfizer chairing the webinar, and then we had other notable pharmaceutical reps in the webinar as well as panelists. And that attracted this volume of peers who wanted to learn from them. Because if you're AstraZeneca, of course you want to know what Pfizer's going to say within your space. We did the same for the gamified learning solutions company. We attracted multitudes of enterprise level companies by partnering them with their current clients. So their clients were people like PepsiCo, AstraZeneca, IBM. Each month we had a different individual from those businesses hosting the webinar with our client, and peers attracted peers, and over time it built an audience for our client. This brings me to point 3, distributing your webinar. Someone once told me that content creation is 20% creating the content and 80% successfully distributing it. Because what's the point in creating it if no one's going to see it anyway? Famous last words with this YouTube video. How do we distribute a webinar to make sure that a lot of people are going to see it? We use every single channel, tool, and individual at our disposal to do this. So when we talk about LinkedIn, we're getting everyone in our clients' teams to share multiple posts about the webinar. These posts always focus on providing value, insight into the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. They're not simply attend the webinar. We make it interesting, we make it engaging, we use different media mixes. We get the CEO or whoever's speaking on camera to talk through what people can expect. We use carousel posts, and we create engaging, unmissable content in the build up to the webinar itself. We also automate cold email. We send out personalized LinkedIn messages to people who are highly relevant and we feel should attend, because people don't mind unsolicited outreach when it provides them with something of value. When the message says something along the lines of, hey, we're running this webinar, I felt it would be relevant to you because we've got X guest speaker and we're covering Y topic. Let me know if you'd like to attend. Literally simple as that, short, sharp, easy for the people you're targeting to say yes or no. You'll probably get warm responses even if people can't attend, which opens the door for you to say something like, well, can I add you to our email list for next time? And bang, they're into your sphere of influence. We'll also sometimes use paid ads, but that's actually very rare. And we always send multiple emails out to our clients' newsletter database. So we're not just sharing it once. It's not a footnote as part of a wider newsletter. It is the single item in multiple newsletters covering what the webinar is, who's speaking, why to attend, when it is. And then the important thing is to make it easy for your partners, for your guest speakers to share it should they wish. you should say, there's no pressure on you sharing this, but here's some content if you would like to revamp it in your style and share it with your network. Most people will happily oblige because it's not this mandatory thing that they have to do. If you make it compulsory, no one will do it. So make it super soft, super easy for them, share content they can use with their network. Now, the only time that that's different is when you're working with a complementary non-competitive supplier. So when you're working with a peer company, then they should absolutely commit to sharing it to their network. They should commit to bringing a certain number of signups. So you might say, look, let's both aim to bring 40 signups and both of us get 20 attendees from those signups. So you need to set the groundwork with them. You need to be super clear when you're working with peer businesses. But when you're working with clients or you're working with well-known figures in the industry, don't put that pressure on them. They're senior individuals. They know if they're attending, if they're speaking, they'll want to promote it anyway. Point 4, making sure they turn up. I just mentioned that there's a big difference between the amount of signups you get and the amount of people who will actually attend on the day. We've seen drop-off rates up to 50%. So we might get 100 signups and only 50 people attend on the day. Now, that's pretty common for free events, for virtual events, but we can minimize the damage. So we can minimize that drop-off by doing certain things. The first thing is that as soon as someone signs up, they join an automated email sequence. They immediately get an email saying, thank you for signing up. Here's what to expect. Here's a reminder of the details. They get a calendar invitation to make it hard to ignore and to ensure no one books over the time of your webinar and to ensure they don't forget about the webinar, right? But also, don't just send one automated email. Send multiple automated emails. So a week before, remind them. Mention that if they've got any questions for your guest speakers, they can submit them in advance. Give them a nudge the day before. Sometimes we even do a morning of the webinar reminder. Just briefly, we always try and provide value. We try not to make it too annoying, but using this process, we help minimize that drop off from signups to attendees. So it's well worth following that process. Point 5, the webinar itself. First of all, do a practice run through. Make sure everyone's aware of the subject matter so the guest speakers know what they're going to get asked. Let everyone run through it. Make sure everyone's aware of the technical confines of the platforms you're using and just test things out. Trust me, it will save so many headaches on the day. It will make it look so much slicker. Then you might want to think about the attendee experience. How do you make it more interactive rather than people sat there with cameras off during it? Well, one of the ways we do this is we run interactive polls during the webinar. So we throw questions out there and attendees can literally scan QR codes on their phone and answer those questions. This has a twofold impact. First of all, it keeps people engaged. Second of all, it gives you data you can use in content. So it's really useful. Now, 2 of the tools we use are Mentimeter and WooClap. They're worth checking out and using on your webinars. Now, that brings me nicely on to the next point, which is what you do post-webinar. You want to make sure you are following up with everyone who attended very quickly. You want to do this via email, so an email thanking them for attending, but also making sure that you're following up with that clear call to action that you should include at the end of the webinar and in that follow-up email. You can also make sure you're connected to everyone who attended on LinkedIn. Do a post on LinkedIn from all relevant profiles, and then follow up a few days later with the webinar recording. It's up to you. Sometimes we decide to only send the recording to people who attend. Sometimes we make it open to everyone. Now it's time to think about what more you can do. How do you keep those prospects warm? One of the ways we do this is we take the webinar recording and we clip it up into multiple clips for social media. So we make sure they're branded, they're subtitled, and these are great little 30, 60-second sound bites that can be used on LinkedIn or any social media platform of choice. Because one hour long webinar is probably going to give you about 15 clips you can use. So make sure you're using every piece. Make sure you're joining all of the dots. And not just with video clips, you can use transcript to create text-based posts. You can use the learnings from the webinar to create carousels, to create lead magnets, and importantly, you've got the data from the polls. So the polls you run during the webinar, you can then take them and use them as pieces of content. You can even survey every one post to get more information. And over time, you can turn all of this data you're getting into white papers, especially when it becomes statistically significant. So for one of our clients, the gamified learning solutions provider, we ran a webinar every month for 12 months. At the end of that time, we had loads of great data from polling and surveying attendees, and we used this to create a 30-page white paper. That 30-page white paper, we then distributed as far and wide as we could. We put paid budget behind it. We used cold email and LinkedIn to distribute it. We posted content about it. We cut it up into its component parts, and it sat as a gated resource on their website. So people had to enter their email to receive it. And that white paper still sat on their website 3 years later. And it has been used to generate multiple enterprise level leads. From that 12-month campaign, they enjoyed an 80% uplift in year-on-year sales the following year. So this stuff works. Now, the final point I want to make is what I've just covered. The webinar doesn't work in a vacuum. From having a pre-webinar process, an in-webinar process, to a post-webinar process, it's important that it works with the rest of your marketing in harmony. Make sure a webinar isn't a let's try it once and see if it works. Think about it in terms of a series. Think about how you're going to deploy that content post to drive results for your business. If you can turn around to the CFO and he goes, when he questions you on, well, you spent budget on that paid speaker, what have we seen in return? And you can say, well, we've increased newsletter subscribers by 20% this year. And actually from our subscribers, we see X amount of referrals and we see Y amount of closed business. You're now talking the language that is gonna make marketing in your business be seen really favorably. It's going to be seen as an investment, as a growth engine, rather than being seen as this nice to have awareness piece. So I hope that was helpful. Now, if enough people comment below this video, I'm happy to package this up into different resources, from messaging templates through to all of the resources we use at 2112, including the different softwares to run webinars. So comment below, make sure you subscribe for more information. Thank you so much for listening.